We got 2 3/4 of an inch of rain this morning, and my original windshield wipers don't work very well on the 68 Firebird. They don't have any of the modern features that we're used to now with the delay, and the washers don't work either, so that's kind of a pain if you do want to wash the windshield while you're driving. So I'm going to update them now. Seems like a good day to do it. First step is going to be to remove the windshield wiper arms and the cowl plate, and we'll get started on that now. We've removed the wiper arms and took the 4 screws off that hold the cowl plate in place. And as you can see, it's a big mess, so it's a good time to clean everything up, repaint it, make it look good since it's all apart. Now we'll remove the wiper arms. Remove the wiper motor. Both the wiper mechanism and the wiper motor take a 5/16 socket. Then remove the wiper mechanism from the wiper motor. This takes a 3/8 socket. There's 2 nuts here. The cowl is cleaned up and sprayed with some fresh chassis black paint. Now we have to drill a hole between 4 and 6 inches from the original wiper arm pivot point. So I'm going to drill it just between 4 and 5, and it should be drilled out to 5/8 of an inch. Next, remove the 2 screws from each side of the drive assembly, and then we'll install the drive assembly in the cowl area. Secure the drive assembly with the 2 screws at each drive gear that we just removed. Tighten each of the countersunk screws and then back off about 1 whole turn. Now install the wire harness through the grommet that we just installed. Next, install the bridge and tighten it down with 3 of the 1/4 inch fine thread bolts and washers. I like to use Loctite 243 on just about everything that I install. It's the medium strength blue Loctite, but it's compatible with oil, so you don't have to get things perfectly clean. Route this bridge underneath the drive shaft for the wipers. Line it up with the bolts on either side. You may have to move things around a little to get the bolts started and get all of them finger tight before tightening them with a wrench. And this is going to be a size 7/16. You can get the 2 outside ones with a socket. Center one, you'll need a wrench. Then you can tighten them all with a 7/16 wrench. Now you can remove each of the screws. Put a drop of Loctite on them and reinstall them tight. Now you can remove each of the pivot shaft countersunk screws. Put a drop of Loctite on them and install them again and tighten them. Now it's time to install the motor. The motor should be hidden behind the bracket, and connect the wiring harness before putting it in. Use 2 more 1/4 inch fine thread bolts with some Loctite to install the motor to the bridge plate. Remove the spindle nut, then orient the drive bracket on this shaft as shown. You may have to move it back and forth to get it to line up. Then just hand tighten the nut. And pivot it so that it lines up with a 1/4 inch hole that is on the motor drive plate, and drop a Phillips screwdriver through that hole to keep it all aligned. Once the Phillips screwdriver has located the drive bracket, the spindle nut can be tightened down using a 13mm wrench. Install the 3 rubber bumpers on the motor brace. Then install the motor brace on the motor using another 1/4 inch fine thread bolt with Loctite. Now install the motor block-off plate with the 3 number 10 screws with Loctite. To install the dash switch, first remove your gauges. The factory wiper knob can be removed by just pulling. Then the switch can be removed by wedging a flat screwdriver in to hold the nut on the front, and then twisting the switch from the back of the dash. Of course, there's a special tool to do this, but most people don't have that tool, so you can manhandle it with a flat screwdriver until it complies. We need to wire the switch to the harness that we fed through the firewall, and it's pretty simple. Just connect the light colors to the light colors, but we're going to have to run a red wire to a 12-volt positive and run a black wire to a ground. And I also ran through the firewall a brown wire that's going to the windshield washer reservoir pump, and that's going to connect up to the brown wire on this switch, and we'll turn the washer pump on when we need to use the windshield washers. So I'm going to wire these all up, show you how it goes together. Here's some quick tips on wiring. You want to strip approximately a 1/4 inch of insulation off. Now we're going to put a butt terminal in place here. This is going to be a red terminal. Make sure the wires are twisted. There's no stray strands sticking out before putting the butt splice on there. I only use the marine butt splices. They seal things, keep you from having any corrosion or wire problems in the future. And then you just match up the color code on the crimp tool with the color of the terminal. Crimp it securely. Give it a quick tug, make sure it doesn't pull off, because if it pulls off, it will fail in the future. Everything is crimped and pull tested. Now it's time to heat shrink the terminals. For under dash wiring, I like to use a fabric tape. This secures the wires and keeps them from rattling against anything under the dash. Gives it a nice clean look as well. It's what some of the higher end newer cars have underneath the dash. Now that the wire harness is all taped up, it's time to mount the switch to the dash. I'm going to use the original bezel. And then mount the nut from the front. Make sure the letters are in the up position. You can tighten it with a flat blade screwdriver just to give it a little bump, snug it up. Now we'll mount the knob on this shaft. Make sure you have enough space so that you can push it to engage the windshield washers. So I'll quick test it. I should be able to engage the windshield washers and switch it on to turn the wipers on. We have the first click, first range of motion here is for the intermittent operation, and there's low and there's high. Get a little extra snug so it doesn't slip, and the switch is done. Everything is wired up. The ignition on power source with 5-volt fuse is wired up, and as well as the ground. And RainGear recommends putting some tape on the wiper instead of the wiper arms so that you can test the operation, because otherwise if you put the wiper arms on, then things may bind up. So I left the cowl panel off, and I'm going to test the operation, so if there's anything wrong, now I can fix it. So turn the ignition on. Turn on the delay right now. Put them on high. Everything looks like it's operating perfect. I'm going to test the windshield washers now. I have a generic windshield washer reservoir with a pump built into it. The brown wire from the switch under the dash is wired to the power lead on the windshield washer pump. So I will check and see how this works. Push the button and see if any water comes out, just using water to test. Sprays really well, and it operates the windshield wiper blades a couple times after it sprayed the windshield washer fluid. Now it's time to fit the cowl panel back in place. I should have touched up the paint while I had it out, but I'll save that for another day. Make sure you put the shims that were there when you took this panel out back in the right place. Then carefully fit it back down. Fit it up underneath the trim piece first. Set your side gap. And I'm going to use some fresh hardware to secure it. Once you install the 4 screws, then you'll want to connect your windshield washer hoses. Let's test the windshield washers one more time before we finish things up. Make sure everything sprays okay. Only one side's working, so I'll have to fix the other side. To fix the jet that didn't spray, I removed all 4 of the screws that held this cowl panel in place, removed the screw that held the jet in place, and then fished it out. Then I tried to blow some air through it with my air nozzle, and it didn't blow anything at first. So then I spent some time spraying some brake cleaner through the little red tube that comes with the brake cleaner cans, and eventually got a little bit of a drip to make it all the way to the end. I tried blowing through it again, didn't do anything, so I blew through this end, the small end, the jet end, and everything blew out of this, and now it's all cleared, ready to go. So I will install it, test the windshield washers again, and then button this up. Here comes the test. Perfect. The original wiper arm shafts were tapered, but these are not, so it's going to be a tight fit. When I install these wiper arms, I want to make sure that they're in the right position for off. So I'm going to put them in a low position here. Now both sides are on. Do the final test with the windshield washers. Works perfect.